Supergirl is now showing in cinemas, so here's my review of Supergirl. You're gonna hear this a lot from people talking about this movie, but I feel it's a very apt description of Supergirl. James Gunn didn't direct this one, but his fingerprints are all over this movie. It's a fun space adventure with snarky characters who have tragic and depressing backstories, and a retro soundtrack to accompany you on this space odyssey. But how did this movie do? Was it any good? Let's start with the positives first. I think this movie does a really good job at differentiating Supergirl from Superman. Because if you ask anyone who only knows her from the CW show, or ask some rando on the street who only knows the character by name who Supergirl is, they'd probably describe Supergirl as a female version of Superman, a Girl Scout who's bubbly and light, when in reality she's not that, because unlike Clark, who had no memory of Krypton because he was sent to Earth as a baby, Supergirl saw her people die, and that's gonna mess anyone up. She's got a lot of built-up anger bubbling inside her, and this movie illustrates that really well. Millie Alcock was great as Supergirl. She's got the snarky punk rock aspect of the character down, but she's also really good at portraying the more vulnerable side of Supergirl/Kara. Ruthie was also great. I thought Eve Ridley did a great job bringing this character to life. She has awesome chemistry with Millie Supergirl, and I wouldn't be mad if they kept her around for more adventures with Supergirl. She's also part Filipino, so
Uy! Philippines! Philippines! Woo!
Now that we've discussed the positives, let's talk about some of the things I think they could have improved upon. Lobo was fun, but I'm not gonna lie, I feel like he didn't really need to be there. The original Woman of Tomorrow comics didn't have him there, so that gave the movie an opportunity to do something cool and new with this interpretation by adding in Lobo. But they didn't really do anything with him. He's kinda just there to add more chaos. If I was writing this, I would have made him the villain of this movie. Much respect to Greg Gillespie, who I think is an awesome director, but I personally don't think he has the ear for needle drops like James Gunn. When James Gunn uses music, he elevates a scene, but in this movie, there's not a lot of variety when it comes to the song choices, and every fight scene just has a song for some reason. James used 3 songs in the Superman movie, and the songs, as well as the scenes they were played in, were all memorable. This has more songs, but I don't think I can point to one sequence that stands out in the same way that the punk rocker sequence does at the end of Superman. The art of the comic books this movie was based on were so vibrant and colorful and at times psychedelic. If I had the power to jump into artworks, I'd jump into Bill Kiss Evely's art from Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. But the movie doesn't have that same visual flair. I feel like the mood board for this movie should have been Guardians 2. The way it felt when the Guardians first visit Ego, or when Gamora was sitting around on a desert, that's how the movie should have looked. I mean, they're already taking a lot of inspiration from the Guardians. I think they should have followed a similar visual style. But perhaps the most controversial thing about this movie is its ending. Because it's divisive. I'd say it's Man of Steel levels of divisive, and I'm not even joking. No spoilers, of course, but let's just say that I was shocked that the movie went there. And I do wish it ended differently, but let's talk about that in another video. Overall, I thought Supergirl was fun. For the most part, it was a pretty good adaptation of Woman of Tomorrow with the added flair and vibe of a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but I am torn about how this movie ended. I still trust in James Gunn's vision because I'm sure he expected people to be torn or at least puzzled by how things end in this movie, and I'd like to think or hope that he has a plan and will address what happens at the end of this movie in a future project, maybe next year with Man of Tomorrow. But what about you guys? What did you think of Supergirl?